back in Australia for a while. I think the last time I went was about 2 years ago, but that's was just for tour and stuff. But
Yeah.
there's no place other like Australia, you know. So
Yeah, there's no place like,
yeah.
you know.
I could. Oh yeah, right. I completely understand where you're coming from, actually. Yeah, because I remember, because I was definitely one of them, you know, listening
Yeah.
to you guys out there. So
That's cool.
yeah, I still remember. You guys were everywhere, you know, and I was like, I was still in school, you know, and honestly, where I come from a place called Wollongong.
Yeah, Wollongong. I know
Yeah,
Wollongong.
no, I'm sure
Yeah.
you do. And
Yeah.
the scene was huge there, you know. The scene of rock and everything was quite big. So I was always a fan of rock, you know, and I was all into all types of stuff because I went to a performing arts school, you know. So
That's cool.
I started off with a little local band myself, you know.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. You were in like
so it was definitely hardcore. Like it went from punk to hardcore metal, and like I love that whole screamer shit. But
just heavy shit.
just mad heavy shit.
Yeah, the heavier breakdowns, the better.
Yeah, for some reason it progresses more heavily, right? Like
Yeah.
once you start getting into, because in the beginning I loved alternative, and then
Yeah.
it started progressively getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and then it went to like grind metal for 1 second. I just like had to step back a bit because everyone was just pig squealing, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But no, it was a good time. It was a good fun time. Love supporting our local artists, and yeah, I kind of do miss those times a lot, you know. But yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
now like
But you're the first person to say that to me, and you're spot on, man. You're spot on. That's crazy. I love how that you picked that out. You're absolutely right. I've had a dying passion and love for just heavy music, you know, because like you said, there's something about it that really satisfies something inside of you. Especially, I think, you know, going to my earlier teen years. You know, I was the only Asian in growing up, you know, so for me, it was really wanting to belong, but you know, I was just plopped into the scene, to the music scene, and the only way I could ever really kind of find some type of relevance or relation to anyone was through music. And you know, at that time, it was just peak, like just metalcore music, and
Yeah.
it was just going off, and you know, so I was just kind of. I mean, fortunately enough, I was just plopped into the scene, but it felt different, especially going to my first show. Just watching because we had a youth center that played local bands every like Thursday, Friday.
yeah, DIY shows.
Yeah, man, and the stuff that they come up with. Oh my god, I remember just going in. And just immediately, the air's just freaking thick, and it's just sweaty and
Yeah.
smelly because they had a pit, and you know it was just. But I still remember feeling the energy from that, and I've just never wanted to stop going back, you know, because it was something that I was like, wow, it
I can
felt
feel that.
relieving. Yeah,
I can feel that.
it's insane.
I-
It's quite interesting that you say it's if now, you know, it's also maybe that we're alone. I think for one, I definitely had supportive parents. Very fortunate enough for that.
That's great.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it does come from core imagination because in the beginning, for me, it was just really about how do I fit in, and then it progressively went to where do I see myself in this scene? Because I don't at that time, especially, I don't see any representative that kind of looks like me that's doing this, you know, not to my knowledge anyway. So I just kind of never really saw that side of like someone to idolize, and you know. So everyone that I idolized were like people that were just already huge, and you know, from the States, from Western cultures, and I loved that. And it was such a interesting moment for me because I never really second guessed it or thought of it in a way where my ethnicity was something that was going to be something that might downplay a certain, you know, part in doing this music
Right.
scene, just because I've never seen that before, you know. But I think as my imagination grew, it kind of grew into excitement. And in the beginning, it's hard telling your Asian mom, like, oh, you know, I want to do like
I'm gonna be in band.
screamo,
Yeah. Or any mom, to be honest.
anything. You know, I still remember I was playing like some heavy stuff for my mom in the beginning. She's like, so what the heck is this? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, granted, but you know, it was a good moment when she finally understood and she wanted to support me, you know, just doing whatever I wanted to do. So I think that is kind of what led me to, I think, further grow out my imagination of like wanting to do something. I didn't even know if it was related to music at the time, honestly, because it was just something that I needed to express. Like I needed to just get out there.
It's a calling.
Yeah, a calling. Yeah, it just felt right. You know, everything aligns, and it just feels like you just have to. Your gut feeling tells you to go here, and it just felt so weird. But at that time, you don't really think of it. Like, you're just really in the moment.
Well, yeah, and especially
yeah. And you guys were all about that too, eh? So I was like, that's why I really loved it. I love the messages that especially rock kind of portrays. Granted, I feel like punk was definitely something that kind of was like rebellious against order and all that, But I think that's why I had a certain love for heavy and hardcore music, because it kind of went against the society, against the norms, and the stuff they talk about as well. It's really it gets political at one point, but
sometimes
it gets like that. But I kind of see it. I kind of understand why, because it's the system that they want to rebel against, and they want to be independent, have a free mind, free thinking. So I think that's why it kind of related so much to the core to a lot of high school kids, especially in Australia, because Australia is very open, very like free-minded. People are so nice, People are so nice and kind that it's very just it's a very supportive community,
On one hand, those two things clash. I actually like
something that I read somewhere. Something that somebody said was like, artists are meant to defy reality. So that's what they're here for. And I get it, because it's like you're manifesting your own reality to the world and how you see it, because you see it differently. And because everyone sees it so differently, I think that's what makes it unique. It's just how much are you willing to not apologize for it, And I think that's what was really, I guess I succumbed to that type of character, which it was like, as you mentioned, it was the idea of bringing characters to life. And I think that's where I really got a lot of inspiration, because it's like you can be anything in this world and still be you, but at the same time it could hit a different market, it could hit a different crowd, and honestly it does shed a lot of your experiences through that ideation of the character. And that's what I think I really loved about forming this type of, I guess, character into this music, into my artistry, especially because when I went to Korea, that was a bit of a different story.
Yeah, what was that like?
My God.
Because it was ever going?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, it was just a sudden decision I decided to make, just because I'm Korean and I just didn't know anything about my culture. And,
right.
Because I was brought up in a full like Western community, and I didn't know anything about my culture. So after uni, I was like, you know what? I want to pack my bags and go to Korea. My mom gave me like a 3 months period. I was like, you just got coming back, I'm gonna whoop your ass. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, all right. So
it was another calling.
It's another calling. Exactly. That's crazy that you say that. It felt like that for me, I didn't know anything. I didn't plan anything. I just, picked my bags up, just went because I thought it was just what I was meant to do, I went, and the first month in Korea, I was just, I got scammed, and I was living out in the streets, bro. And I was like, that was my first taste of reality, because Korea is, like you said, it's the other flip side of the coin from Australia.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely cutthroat. Like, it just it's more than a dog eats dog world. It's like it's a very like judgmental society, but it's a very unified society. So if one person does like one thing that kind of sticks out, it's more shunned upon than viewed as like unique,
right?
know?
By the mass.
Right. Because again, in Korea, it's not multicultural; it's just all Korean. So and if you put in that to account, it's really hard for you to stand out and kind of follow through with that idea without getting it like completely shut down
over time,
over the period of time.
Yeah,
and me being from Australia, I don't know none of that, so I just to them, it might have been like very intimidating, but also in the flip side, maybe a breath of fresh air. But I still remember when I went there, I wanted to dance because I was so into dancing as well. I'll just rock up to like just dance studios. I'll be like, can I just dance with you guys? And they'll just be like, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
There's a system to
There's
it.
There's a system.
Yeah. And, you know, in Korea, we have hierarchy systems. So the elders would be just on top of the youngers. So like there's a whole hierarchy.
You have to earn.
You have to earn your spot.
Every way up.
Yes.
Through time and
those years and those numbers are not kind. I'm telling you. Like 5 years making coffee.
No matter how good.
You have to start over. And
it doesn't make sense.
You have to be silent.
Okay.
Because if you do, you know, if you do be a bit loud about it, most likely you're going to be the most hated, you know. So
yeah.
And
just stick out.
Yeah. And your living conditions are just going to be so hell after that. So it was a very eye-opening moment. It's also humbling, but especially during that period of time. I don't know what it's like now, but back then it was very, very to the point where you had to go through a process, a system, you know, stages, and you know, seeing that I didn't really like it, to be honest, because I thought, you know, if you were good and if you had that talent and if you had that voice, I thought it should be more empowering. People should more empower people like that. But the whole idea of like free ideas and free speech of doing what you want was censored to a certain extent, because not by force, but
it was
you're spot on. Yeah, absolutely spot on. You're spot on. It's a thought that I always come back to. You're right.
I feel that.
Yeah, you're exactly spot on, man. It's a thought that I always come back to. It's like, man, after all of that, would I ever want to go back through that again?
Well, no.
But then had I not, you're right. Had I not, would I have the same trail of thought, or would I still be the same person as I am today? And if I look at who I am today, am I like happy with it? And I am.
Yeah, you know? It's cool.
Yeah, and I think it's brilliant that you bring that up, because your experiences really do make who you are.
If it doesn't kill you.
If it doesn't kill you, thank God.
You know, but like that's a real thing. It's
I appreciated that, man. I appreciated it. Yeah, I think especially going back to the tattoo thing, you're right. I do log it as if it's like a diary entry, you know.
I can see.
Yeah, it brings you back to that certain time, that certain moment.
Yeah.
And I still remember how I felt, because I usually get tattoos just based on certain high and the extreme low moments I had, you know?
Me too.
Yeah,
same. Highs and lows.
Perfect.
Highs and lows.
Always. And I think that's what would compel you to do it, you know? Like that would be the one thing to compel you to do something like that. And I honestly look back at a lot of these moments, and especially the tattoos, and I'm like, man, I have lived quite a fruitful life, you know, and I still have many years to go, of course, but I do always say I have to always be grateful for it, for sure, you know. And like you said, it could have been worse. I think it always could have been worse for everyone, you know. Korea was definitely one place that taught me a lot of resilience, as you mentioned. Had I not, I think I would have been way more naive, way more clueless, and a little less deeper than what I would be, you know. And I think it's so funny because it ties into the heavy metal and the rock music that I so passionately loved. I think that's also like one essence that kind of kept me like sticking through all those hard times, especially in Korea, because I went through the whole idol process as well.
Yeah, and how was that?
When I tell you my world was flipped around, it was flipped around because I went into the K-pop scene. I went from metal to K-pop.
Right.
So it was just like well, for one, I went into it because I wanted to hit a target audience just so I can start creating my own movement, which would later be DPR. But initially it was just, I thought if you became a K-pop idol, like you just immediately gained some type of like attention, you immediately gained some type of crowd. And I wanted to use that crowd to fuel what I wanted to do independently later, you know. So it was a shortcut in terms of thinking.
Actually, though,
do you ever say for yourself personally that, you know how you kind of always seek and you always chase, and there's a limit?
Always.
You don't think that's ever ended for you?
Never
as well?
Ending.
Interesting. I agree with everything you say, man. It's crazy. I think I was in that moment of space where I was trying to find, I think, some type of ground as well, you know, because I think more times than not, I sometimes feel like I'm not grounded because I think I've lived a life where I've always had to uproot myself and, you know, constantly move. And I'm sure it must have been a hell of a lot of like that for you as well. But
yeah, we're a bit.
And you know, like I think, like you mentioned, I think in the beginning I was I kind of made music, right? I kind of had to express myself really out there because I needed to say something, you know, because I needed to also dismiss like something that I felt, and you know, going on with this certain disorder I had, and it was just something that I needed to really get out to the world.
Was it like a mental health?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I have bipolar, and then the whole bipolar thing was like such a curveball, especially when it hit me in middle school.
Yeah, it's tough.
It was, you know, because that's why I only know extreme highs and lows. But for me, it was just, I've lived really relatively well with it throughout my whole life until I started facing like those big moments where it tipped my world upside down, and you know, people saying no, and you know, for the first time I was like, I felt like I just had no control of what I was doing, and you know, everything just felt like it was aligned, and then it just got disrupted. So I think it was I needed to exert a lot of that frustration, that force, everything that was just packing inside. You know, it was just about to blow up.
Yeah, it's like a therapeutic exercise.
Yeah.
That you've discovered almost naturally through living,
and then through art. You know, and then in the beginning I was like, okay, so I might do this for myself, and
well, you needed to.
Yeah, I needed to. Needed to, and as I've progressively kept coming out with it, like the second album, I realized it wasn't for me anymore. You know, I realized it was for the people out there that kind of needed it for me, and it was another realization I had. I was like, okay, so this isn't just about me anymore.
No, it's imagine how many people out there.
It's like you mentioned. It kind of also helped me understand how to coexist with it just by putting it out there. I think initially though, I was very somewhat also skeptical about, for example, my whole artistry is based on the characters that I become when I go to these extreme lows and highs. But
that's dope.
Yeah,
by the way.
Do you like it? Oh,
it's fucking dope.
I appreciate it, man. But in a sense, by putting a name to it, for example, by calling out these characters and projecting a name into it, am I giving it too much power? Is in another sense? Am I giving it to the power that it unnecessarily doesn't need? You know, and I think in the beginning I was really skeptical of that because I knew the route that I was going down. Had I once now put a name to these personas that I become,
these sides,
like, am I not bringing it to life now? Kind of like Frankenstein, you know. You are delving into like uncharted territories. You're creating a monster. You're going into gray area, and it was kind of like, oh man, I wonder what will become of me, and second of all, like, I wonder if it's going to worsen the situation of my disorder. But then I was like, you know what? Like, screw it. You know, you only live once. And it called. It absolutely, it was a calling, you know. Actually, one of the first demos I made was called The Calling because it's insane. Yeah.
Some to it.
Yeah, something to it. I think it glued everything together, right? Like, it brought everything into one piece. You're right. It's quite an interesting thing because you don't really think much of it when you're in the process, right? And then I think it's moments like when you're going on off stage and you know you're walking to the bus and then you have fans come up to you, and then I think it was just moments like that when you finally get to hear the words from the people that are supporting your stuff and you are changing lives for that matter. And I think, hearing that was such a crazy experience because initially I didn't know what my artistry would project and what it would do. Obviously, I had a certain idea of what I wanted it to do, but I think it was the first time hearing that experience that kind of made everything worth it. So the whole idea of like, I'm so reluctant to make this into a name and to project this into an actual character kind of all went away because it became worth it after that point. And I was like, okay, so this is why I'm doing it, you know? So this is the real reason. And like you said, the calling, it's quite a fascinating term that I think I'm more recently into this thing. And because I have a friend who's really religious, and he would always say like it really does identify as the calling, you know. It'll be a term that people would use biblically as well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I now kind of come to a point where I'm like, I have to treat myself like the messenger. I gotta find something I gotta see the value bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I started to finally be able to let go of all the spite, the anger, you know, kind of understand what it means to give without wanting to feel like you need anything back.
Right.
And I think from that point on, everything became a lot more clarified.
Yeah.
And you know, that's only just recently happened, to be honest, you know, and I feel way more light, and, you know, and hearing your words even now, I think it couldn't have come at a better time, you know.
That's great.
Yeah, so I appreciate it, man. Like, really do. Like,
I appreciate it. I think
for the longest time, it was just all about going, like, you know, just point A to point B. And it wasn't even like, okay, like I'm just kind of in the hopes that it would happen. I just kind of, in my mind, I always think it's going to happen, you know? So I'm sure you know this
I'm
too.
the same.
Yeah. I feel like you would be exactly
everything I
the
do
same.
in life.
Yeah. Like, you just know. So then I realized more times than not, I was becoming less excited about it.
Right.
You know, because it wasn't really the process that I was enjoying. It was the process just, I felt like, tagged along and came with it. So I think more times now I'm trying to be a little bit more present, you know, in everything that I do. So, because, you know, every second that passes doesn't really come back. And for me, I think that's the beauty in it. And I want to be a lot more present in the things that I do, meaning I want to savor in a lot of these moments. Like, even just talking with you right now, it's just, for me, it's magical right now.
That's
like,
dope.
you just I don't even understand.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy right now. So that's just the one thing that I kind of wanted to hold on to going into the future for one. And ever since I really started trying to do that, I think I started having more excitement in not just work, like, because I think I was just too much of a workaholic, where I just always will put that priority, you know, which is why I've always had like a tough love life. And, you know, because
you've struggled to have.
I've struggled so much. Like, I know I love somebody, right? I know I want a good relationship, but I don't know if it was me just being too ambitious with what I wanted to do and what I thought I needed what I needed in terms of what environment it had to be, what it had to be in a certain way for me to go faster.
Right.
So it was really just about pushing the process faster or better, you know.
So you hope to have a relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's good.
yeah, like, you know, family.
Yeah.
My values have changed in a way where I do want a family, and I just want to be sitting at the dinner table with my team, just be looking at our stuff that we've done, and, you know, just having a good laugh and conversation about it, you know.
Yeah. Just
bringing friends and family together. That's one of my core values now, to be honest. And
that happens with age.
That does.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting on.
No, I think there's age and experience, right?
Yeah.
So it could happen at a different age for everyone based on their experience. I think you have a lot of experience.
Oh, right.
I think you've probably given some relationships a go.
Yes.
And and you get experience. There's a time.
Yes.
There is a time for work.
Yes. Actually,
and this is a young man's game. Right? So
you say that. I've always tried to find that kid that I used to be when I was that age. I think it was a moment where I was like, okay, I feel like I've lost that kid at a certain point. I think that was during my K-pop era. But then it was just that need for wanting to bring that version of me back to life, because I knew how I was like back then, you know, no boundaries, no limits, just literally what I wanted to draw and what I wanted to paint. And I didn't know there was so much value in that until I felt like it was missing, you know. So,
well, the world tells us.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's why be yourself, be you. That was also actually one of my mottos, and it it was something that I kind of heavily am still trying to learn even to this day, you know. And
it's lifelong.
It's a lifelong. It's perpetual. Yeah.
Do you think that
try to climb back into that mode? And I think we naturally become like that when we get creative, right? Like it doesn't become like all of a sudden like outside talk or outside opinions and everything that kind of barrages you and changes your perception of everything. It just solemnly comes from you and what you want to do. And I've always said, like, you should never apologize for that. And that's what I try to tell my fans as well, because you are you, and that's why you're unique, and that's why you're special. So why would you ever want to change? And why would you ever need to, you know, for something or somebody else? Man, yeah, I appreciate everything you say, man, because it's like it really does align with everything that I've been going through and I've been kind of thinking about, and the state where I'm in, you know, just hearing from a veteran from you, like you, I think it does help me put everything in order a lot, you know. I certainly have a long way to go, but I think it's very inspirational, you know. You've definitely you're so insightful, your mind. It's so amazing how your mind works.
I just feel
definitely very enlightening for me, because I think one of the thoughts I've always had was I feel like my 20s was it was a bit chaotic, so I couldn't process it. And now that I'm in my 30s, I'm still trying to process it, but for some reason I'm in a more better place for me to allow myself to kind of unravel it. But I've always wanted, like, kind of what I think your life is right now. You know how you have kids, you're at a better place, stabilized, grounded. You have family. You know, you got your work, career. It's everything kind of is starting to align. And I've always imagined, like, I've always wondered if it would happen like that, if it would naturally, because I wanted it, I want that so bad. But there's also a notion in me where, because I've never really experienced it, or I've never really felt that, I didn't know how possible it would be, you know, because like you said before, I think I was more prone on the idea of things not working out in terms of relationships, like just things like can work out to a certain extent, but I don't know anything beyond that. Like, I don't know if it would, I don't know what that would look like. You know what I mean? Like, especially with just knowing me. Yeah. You know?
None of us do.
So I guess it's just like something to...
I think you're doing it.
Oh, yeah?
I think you're looking towards it.
Yeah.
And it'll appear.
And it'll appear.
You know, amazing. Like, you won't find something if you're not looking for it.
No, you're right.
And it's not in your mind as like, oh, this will happen.
Yeah.
And I think it'll unfold if you stay true.
Just... so much. Thank you. Thank you.